I'm going to shut the door so you don't
Okay,
get all that
sure.
noise out
right.
there.
Okay. All right. I'm ready. This is an interview with Senator Alice Varnado Harden for the Jackson State University Robert Clark Era Oral History Project by Emanuel J. Abston. Senator Harden is in the conference room on the second floor of the state capitol.
The Education Committee room, where all decisions regarding education are made.
Very good, very historic room. And today is June 28th, 2006, and the time is 1:50. Good afternoon, Senator Harden.
How are you?
My first question is, when did you become interested in being a Mississippi legislator?
Well, I really never thought of it as I matriculated at Jackson State University or became a teacher in the public schools of Jackson. It was only after I got involved in being an advocate for teachers did I ever consider running for the Mississippi State Senate. And to be honest with you, I really did not on my own make that decision. I had been president of the Mississippi Association of Educators for 3 years, and it just so happened that the person who held the seat, Henry Kirksey, decided that he would not run again. He retired. And so there were people that were MAE members, there were community people, there were church members of mine, and people who lived in the 28th Senatorial District who said to me, why don't you run for that Senate seat? And I hesitated, and they said, well, you've been a very good advocate for public education, and you've stood up for us, and you've worked with us in the community. Why don't you run? And so many people began to approach me. And so I finally decided that if this was something that they thought that I could do and that I could do it well, then I would be more than happy to run for the seat in the Mississippi State Senate. Well, it just so happened that there were 7 of us in the race in 1987. And I happened to get into a runoff with State Representative Earl Banks. And during the runoff, Earl and I became very, very good friends. I beat him out and won the Senate seat for the 28th Senatorial District. And he and I have been friends ever since. Subsequently, he ran for a House seat in another district and won. And so we've been kind of best friends and adversaries ever since I ran for the Senate and he ran for the Senate, and I won. And I always tell people that I beat him out.
And on the situation of support, you had a lot of educators statewide, you might say, that were very supportive of your candidacy to some degree. What was the case with him? What block did he perhaps have the support of?
Well, Earl had a background of service to the community because his family was in the funeral home business.
Okay.
And you know, when you're in the funeral home business, you have an opportunity to meet people from all walks of life. And I think that is one of the things, the fact that he had been able to communicate and to be involved with people from all walks of life. He was able then to pull together a core group of people who supported him. By the same token, as Mississippi Association of Educators president, I had the opportunity to travel the state and to interact with and to make friends with and to try to present a unified front for public education in the state of Mississippi. But more importantly, the people in the 28th district knew me as a hometown girl who grew up in Senate District 28, whose parents reared 9 siblings in the 28th senatorial district. And so it was not hard for all of us together to pull the coalition that we needed in order to win and to be successful. And many of those people who helped me out in 1987 are still helping me out in 2006.
And you mentioned your family base and your family connection. You're talking about the Varnado family. Is that your reference?
Yeah, my father is John Otis Varnado Sr.
Okay.
My mother is Lula Robinson Varnado, and they came from South Mississippi in Pike County. And my daddy went to Alcorn, moved to Alcorn in the early 50s, and to go to school. And he left Alcorn and came to Jackson, and we've been in Jackson ever since. I attended Isabel Elementary School from the first grade all the way through. I attended Jim Hill High School, and then I went to Jackson State and got a BS and a master's degree.
All right. So now, just one question about your teaching profile. What schools were you affiliated with as a teacher? Two or three, or just one?
I first started Callaway High School.
Okay.
I was one of the first black teachers that were hired at Callaway after integration. As a matter of fact, the year that I went to Callaway High School, they closed the schools down for 2 weeks after Christmas. They redistributed teachers, and they redistricted students. And I had already been hired before the Christmas holidays, so I was one of the only teachers who stayed at Callaway, one of the only black teachers, or white teachers to be, for that matter, to stay at Callaway, because I had recently, I was a new hire. Everybody else they say they put their names in a hat and they drew them out and decided on, what school they would go to. But I stayed at Callaway for 11 years. That was a terrific experience, because it was really during a turbulent time in Jackson when the schools were integrated. There was a lot of white flight. There was a lot of black flight.
Yes, sure.
And when I left Callaway, I went to Forest Hill for a year. And then from Forest Hill, I went to Brinkley. And from Brinkley, when I was at Brinkley, that's when I was elected as president of the Mississippi Association of Educators. And I remember well that there were a lot of people who were saying, well, you're going to stop teaching in order to be the president of MAE. I said yes. I had took a leave of absence year by year, and never knowing that I would never go back to the classroom once I finished the year 1. In year 2, you'd get elected again. In year 3, and then after year 3, I ran for the state senate, and subsequently here I am.
Yeah.
I've been here ever since. I've got 19 years in the Senate, plus my years as a public school teacher, and it's getting mighty close to time to train some new people to come on board and to and to start.
You're approaching 20 years.
20. I have 34 years in the retirement system.
All right. Okay. All right. Oh, sure. Okay. I'm just thinking about your senatorial years.
Oh, I have 19 years.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. You're up on 20 just here in the state capital here. All right. Now, one thing that you didn't mention. What is your field of concentration? Were you in elementary? Not elementary, but
when I taught school,
science.
I was my undergraduate major was health, physical education, and recreation.
Okay.
I then got certified in science. I got a AA in science.
Okay.
So I taught physical education and science for all through my teaching career. Okay. I would teach maybe 3 or 4 classes of PE, and then I would fill in with a couple of general science or whatever the case might be.
Oh, all right. All right. And let me focus in on you being a senator. More recently, in the 90s and the like, what have been the real issues to get you reelected? You've had a little less and less opposition But what are some of the strategies? If not, what are some of the real issues since the 90s as far as electoral politics?
Well, it's difficult to say because I see myself as a servant of the people. And I feel like as long as you do a job that the people are pleased with, then they will come out in November and they will continue to elect you as long as they feel that they have a representative at the state capitol. And so I have maintained connections and relationships with the various community groups, churches and ministers and other people that are in the district. But more than that, when you become a state senator or a state representative, you not only represent the 52,000 people who elect you, but you also have to have a global vision, and that vision has to be big enough to make sure that the decisions that you make are good for all the people in the state of Mississippi. So in addition to my representing the people in the 28th district, I have also sought out that global vision so that when issues come up that I know that are good for everybody in the state, I'm one that will jump on that bandwagon because it's something that I think is good for everybody. Good example of that is to eliminate the taxes on food. That was an issue for me in the 28th district, yes, because every time I talked to people in the district, they thought that it was a good, what they would say to me is about time. You know, it's about time that the working people got some relief. Mm-hmm. That's one of those issues where the working people would have gotten some relief, because people who are at the lower end of the totem pole, those people who are on government subsistence, they don't pay any taxes on food anyway. So that's an issue that impacted not only the people who are in the 28th district, but it was an issue that impacted upon Mississippians, all Mississippians, whether they were black or whether they were white. It's an example of the kind of global perspective that you have to have as an elected official. But the other thing is that you can never lose touch with the people who send you where you go. Mm-hmm. And I have tried my best to stay in touch with those individuals who helped me to secure the seat, to represent them. And then I have also tried to work in their best interest. I think that if everybody felt like the seat does not belong to me, it belongs to the people, and as long as the people think I'm doing a good job, the people will continue to let me hold that seat, I think that philosophy would be a good one to adopt. And I don't ever lose sight of the fact that this ain't my seat in the 28th district. This seat belongs to the people, and the people decide who they want to hold this seat. Now, I've gotten a lot of experience. I've done a lot of things over the 19 years that I've been in the legislature, and I think that's important because if you come to the Capitol and you work hard, I feel like you ought to be rewarded. Yes. And the reward is to continue to re-elect you. Yes. By the same token, if you come and you lay down and you do nothing and you take no position, I never would condemn anybody for a position that they took, but you ought to take some position, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. You ought to have a position on something that you're willing to stand up for. Right. And so my thing is, if in fact you do what you believe is the right thing to do for the people that you represent, then I don't think that the politics is going to take you out. As long as you feel like that the people sent you here, and a lot of folks come here and forget about the folks who sent them. Yeah. You know, they get to voting for me. And they forget about the fact, it would be very easy to say, oh, well, my people don't care about the taxes on groceries. You know, if that was my belief. Yeah. But I'm not here to totally represent. I have to use good judgment.
Oh, sure.
And all public officials have to use good judgment. And the other thing is, you can't be afraid to say, I made a mistake. I had this information at this time, and now it's different, and I just made a mistake. We're all human, and we all make mistakes. We have all cast some wrong votes, that a lot of people don't like. But you got to be big enough to stand with what it is, and then you got to be big enough to say, I'm sorry, this was wrong.
Sure,
absolutely. And so, in my opinion, the politics of being reelected is, first of all, the fact that the seat does not belong to you, that you work for the people, that you stay as close to the people as you possibly can, and then you do all that you can to make for a better way of life for the people in your district, in addition to that global vision I talked about of trying to make Mississippi a better place for everybody.
Senator Harden, have you been always pleased with your committee assignments and the like? I see that you own universities and colleges.
Well, I have always, my goal when I got here was to chair education, and I've done that. I have chaired 4 major committees.
Okay.
I have had a very fruitful leadership in the Mississippi State Senate. I did labor, I did elections, I've done education, and I've done universities and colleges. And I think that what most newcomers don't understand is that you don't come in knowing how to operate and to run a committee. It takes time, and you work your way through the system and through the processes of the House and the Senate. I always tell them what you need to do, first of all, is build relationships. Relationships count in a body of 52 folks if you intend to get anything done. If you intend to move up from the back row to the next seat to the middle row and on up. And you also have got to be willing to network and to be a team player.
Yeah.
That's the other part of it. Being a team player doesn't always mean that you sell out your beliefs. Being a team player means that you're willing to give a little in order to get a little.
Yes.
And in this business, a lot of times we end up giving a lot and getting a little. But sometimes that's the way it goes, in order to get anything. But then you will get to a point where you will get a lot and you only have to give a little bit. But it doesn't happen overnight. And so my strategy has been, first of all, to build the relationships. Once you build the relationships and you let people know, I'm willing to work. I'm willing to put in the extra hours. I'm willing to read all these bills. So when I get up before the Senate, I know what I'm talking about. If it means staying at this Capitol till 9 o'clock, I'm willing to do that. You got to show yourself approved. And then people will recognize you for what you do, and you will get respect, and then eventually, you move into slots that you never thought that you would be considered for. But it doesn't come overnight.
It sure does.
You have to stay on target, and then you got to do your homework and make sure that your word is your bond around here. If you tell somebody you're gonna do something, then you better die trying. Because I'm telling you, your word is your bond. If you give your word, and then if you find out that you can't, you need to go back and individually say to that person, listen, I found out that the people in my district were not pleased with X, Y, and Z. And I need to tell you right now, before this vote takes, that I'm going to have to change and vote no on that.
Okay.
It's better to do that than to hang yourself out there. People thinking you're going to vote one way and you, in fact, going to vote another. But
key decisions are made in committee.
Yes.
And when it hit the floor, the chairman pretty much has
control. I tell you what, in my opinion, the decisions are made in the committee. That's why it's so important that committee chairs understand the process. When I was chair of education, what you need to do is, first of all, you have to build confidence among the folks on your committee. In higher education, when we got ready to do something, I would walk and talk to every member on the committee and explain to them, and I say, now this is what I'm going to bring up today, and this is what the IHL lawyer has said about this, and they've said this, and they've said that, and I need your support on this. You can't just come in here, sit there in the chair,
Take nothing for granted.
Take nothing for granted. And I never did.
Yeah.
I always ask my people, would you please support this? This is something that IHL is pushing. This is something that Mississippi State needs. This is something that Jackson State needs. I need your support on this.
Yeah.
And it ain't automatic.
Yes.
And if you do your homework, then you can get a lot of things done. But if you're lazy and not willing to do your homework, things will fall apart.
Senator Harden, you're a distinguished graduate of Jackson State University.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just ask you the question, do you consider the JSU lobby in the state to be fairly strong or fairly weak? What's your assessment of that?
Well, they do a pretty good job.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Probably about as well as any of the other universities. Because, Jackson State has specific needs, just like all of the 8 state-supported universities have needs that are very different from each other because of the stages of growth, where they are. So I don't think that Jackson State is lacking anything as far as the people that they send. If anything, the other institutions do a lot more networking. And that's important because you do have to network with individuals that can help you to push your cause. And a lot of it is because the people in the legislature, majority, Caucasian, and they've gone to Mississippi State or they've gone to Southern or they've gone. It's very different with us. We almost having to start at ground zero and build up and build that relationship, to get you a little bit of clout and get you, So I don't think that I think Jackson State is in as good a position as any other school in the state that is supported by, the legislative appropriation. If you ask me, sometimes I get frustrated because they don't ask for more.
Oh, okay.
Because I want the sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. They can only tell you one or two things, yes or no.
Yeah. Okay.
They can give you the money or they can not give it to you. You can't be no worse off than you are. That's the way I see it.
And so, is it that the college board or IHL, is it that Jackson State have a good lobby there equally so?
They have a good lobbyist. They do have a good lobbyist. I have to give it to you. Yeah. Worth Thomas is the lobbyist for Jackson State.
Okay.
What happens, I think, with IHL is that the institutions get together and they try to present a united front, but then there are some things that are unique to Jackson State that they have to have, you know what I mean?
Right.
But usually the board and all of the presidents decide these are going to be the priorities for this year. And they're big things, like this year the priority was the pay raise.
Okay.
And so everybody was on board with the pay raise. The historically black universities were saying we need a little bit more. Doesn't mean that we're not supporting what all of us together have agreed on, but you know where we are and you know how far behind we are. So, what they said to us is that we need a little bit more. We weren't able to give it more because we were trying to make sure that everybody, state employees, the nurses, and everybody got a pay raise. But that's the kind of dealings that happen that aren't bad. But it just recognizes the fact that some of the schools are farther behind than others. By the same token, there's an agenda that everybody agrees to, and I don't see that to be detrimental. To me, that is good because we know that this is something that everybody agrees with. And coming from Jackson State and representing All Point and all of that, I also understand the other needs. And if there's any opportunity to stick in some more stuff, then you go back into your computer and you pull out some of those extra things that they've said, that they need.
Let me focus on this again. Then, is it that there's a, in a contemporary sense for this next year, is there a merit pool of money as well as the cost of living pool?
I have no idea. I don't have any ideas as to how the money goes to IHL. IHL gives the money to the president. The president makes the decision.
Okay.
And we have truly been criticized for doing it that way.
Oh, okay.
Because now when we do K-12 public school teachers, we say every teacher shall get 8% or 5% or $2,500 or whatever. State employees, we said you would get the least you could get is $1,500.
Yeah.
And some people that are state employees got as much as $6,000 or $8,000 in rate. But the universities are different, and they have convinced the folks who do the money that they ought to be the ones, give us the lump sum of money, we'll dilly it out to the universities, and then the university presidents decide on, and I don't know who in conjunction with the president makes that decision, but it's not made here. We don't do that. We appropriate the dollars.
Yeah.
So if you only get a merit raise and don't get a cost of living, go see the president.
I see. Yeah. All right. He's the point man.
Yeah, he's the point man, but the buck got to start with somebody.
Right.
But I can tell you the intent was that everybody would get, would be dealt with equitably.
Yes.
But now whether that happens or not, I don't know.
I see. All right, let me get back to Robert Clark. You came to the legislature in '88. Now he has maybe a dual image, as I see it. He Coach Clark. He's also a gentleman farmer. He's also an astute politician. Now, have you been exposed to those three personalities to some degree? Are those three images his public persona?
Well,
I've
only known Robert Clark since, and I had heard of him when I was president of the Mississippi Association of Educators, because during that time of the Education Reform Act, I think he served as a chairperson of the House Education Committee. Mm-hmm. So of course, from coming here lobbying as a teacher, of course, I knew of Robert Clark and his support for public education, and particularly for public school kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then as I started my public service career in the Senate, I also have known Robert Clark because he has always been a member of the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus. And so that way you get to know the people who serve in the other houses and for whatever the reason. And then when he was elected, when he was what do I want to say? When he was promoted by the House to be the pro tem Speaker pro tempore of the House of Representatives, then certainly, and we have worked on several campaigns, different campaigns and stuff. One in particular was the one to limit term limits, for people in the legislature and for people that are not. But
that first came up in 92 or thereabouts, or when?
Something like that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, we worked together on that campaign, and I've known him more so from the time that we lobbied for kindergarten all the way through until his career ended, and he retired from the Mississippi legislature. But then I found out that he was a Jackson State graduate. So that gave us a dual connection because I also am a Jackson State graduate. Yeah. The people in Holmes County tell me that, he has always been a public servant, whether he was elected or whether he was not. Yeah. But I've known him at the Capitol. I've known him as a Jackson State alumni, and in those positions, then I think he has done an outstanding job, and I feel like he truly is a statesman who is worthy of all the recognition that we can give him. I remember them saying that when he first came to the legislature, nobody wanted to sit beside him. And so, and I thought, and I always think to myself, I say now, here we are, 13 of us in the Senate. We can pick where we want to sit. We have people black people who decide that they don't want to sit beside somebody, and it's their privilege. But it was very different for him. It wasn't that he didn't want anybody sitting beside him. It was that nobody wanted to sit beside. That's exactly right. And I just kind of ponder in my mind, what would it be like now? You know. If because Hillman Frazier sits next to Jack Gordon, the appropriations chairperson. I mean, Bennett Turner sits next to Har Bryan, a guy from North Mississippi. I mean, just to show you, what, and this is symbolic. Whether it means anything, but no longer. And in that sense, I think that even though the person that's sitting next to you may have the opposite opinion of you, the fact that the two of you can sit at that one desk and get along does say a whole lot about what has happened in Mississippi. I'd be the first to tell you that we got a long, long way to go. But when I look back, even from the time that I came in 1988, it was only Doug Anderson and myself when Perks had left. It was just the two of us. I sat beside Doug, and he coached me on and taught me how to be a good senator. And he's the person who made me go and speak. He'd say, I said, Doug, you need to go talk on this. You need to go. You get up and go. And if he hadn't insisted that I get up and go to the podium and that I speak on this, and he said, you know more about this than I do. You ought to go talk about it. And every little thing, he was pumping me up. Every little thing, he was pumping me up. And I was scared to death.
You all were the two teachers.
We were the only two, and he used to push me all the time. And he would always say, "You go talk about it. You know more about it than I do." I said, "Doug, you ought to go. You know I ain't used to doing that." He said, "Well, you got to do it." And now I can talk to 1,000 people.
Yes.
And Doug was good at going and speaking on something he didn't know nothing about.
I see.
And look, he didn't know do the squat about it, but you know what he'd do? He'd go up there and
convince
talk.
him. Yes.
I learned how to do that.
Yes.
In the legislative process, you got to learn
process.
Absolutely. You have to learn how to get up. You may not know nothing about it. Just get up there and make up something.
Yes.
He was good at that. I mean, he could get up there. And then the other thing he could do is he could get up there and he could take the opposite position. Very easily. It was amazing to me, but it really, really taught me a whole lot. And so when I got to be committee chair, all of that came back to me. All of it, because in the Senate, protocol is important. There's a certain way you call up a bill. There's a certain way you do everything. There's a certain way you address the chair. It doesn't matter if it's a male or female. It's always Mr. President or Mrs. President or whatever. Madam President. So the protocol is really, really. But that's kind of the way those institutions are. It starts with the U.S. Capitol, and then all of those same kinds of protocols kind of follow us down here. But anyway. Back to Robert Clark. I knew him as an advocate for public education, and he's always been that. And then I knew him as a Jackson State alumni.
Can you identify some 2 or 3 progressive whites who perhaps all along since you've been here have been identified with the Black Caucus to some degree, and you all's legislative package that you might be maybe associated with for the most part? Certainly you're advocates of the historical black colleges and universities. Maybe you're advocates for prison reform, and certainly you said public education across the board, teacher pay raises, this kind of thing. Can you name some that comes to mind as senators? I'm saying.
I would
state leadership.
I would hesitate to call names because at any given time, depending on what it is, you may or may not be able to get the vote. What we always say is if you can get 27 votes in the Senate, you can do whatever you want to do. Because, we got 52 people in there. If you can get 20. And by and large, we've got probably 26 or 27 folks who would support and I have seen that I've seen it increase and decrease over time depending upon who, and it's frightening to say, but a lot of times the Republicans support us.
Yeah.
And then we have a core group of black senators and other white Democrats who also support. So I would be hesitant to say that this person or that person or this. I would want to know what the issue is, and then you also have to look at where these people represent, because they, like I told you, you got to represent your district, but you got to have a global vision.
Yeah.
So
but it's still to some degree regional, though, isn't it? The Delta people, the Southern Mississippi element. It
depends upon what the issue is.
Okay.
That's why I keep telling you about the global vision of all Mississippians, as you put it with what's good for the people in the district that you represent. So you got to first look at where they represent, where they come from, and then you got to think about that global. And when you think of people who, for example, if it's a fight between Jackson State and Mississippi State, you got to look at the person who represents Mississippi State. Common sense will tell you that they're going to vote for what's in the best interest of Mississippi State first. Then they're going to look at the globe. So it depends on what the issue is, and it depends upon the demographics of the section of the state that they represent.
Have the senators, for the most part, been big on economic development for the state?
They have been very, very big on economic development.
What the larger programs? Okay.
Nissan project is one. I'm trying to think of what else. We always pass bond bills to give incentives to, certain companies like Norfolk Grumman, the range, biking range up in the Delta, and I understand that they're putting together a Delta initiative that we'll be looking at next year. But we've generally been very, very receptive to economic things, to issues that we think are going to create jobs, high-paying jobs, so that people can stay in the state of Mississippi.
I'm going to try to curtail this. Let me just ask you this pointed question. Do you take exception to me referring to Robert Clark as being the most influential African-American in 20th century Mississippi politics?
No, I don't.
Any comments on that?
It speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. See, because the way I see it is, if it had not been a Robert Clark, you wouldn't be talking to Alice Harden.
Yes.
If Robert Clark had been, if he had not been courageous, if he had not been bold, if he had not had the courage to stick around at any point in time, he might have just threw in the towel. But he didn't.
Yeah.
And because of him, all of the rest of us, we got 45 of us now, and because he had the stick-to-itiveness enough, didn't matter what they did to him, if they didn't let him speak or whatever the case might be, he stayed on. And so because of that, then all of us now can stand up and speak and stop the process if we want to.
Yes. Yes.
I don't
fault it.
That's right. I don't take 45.
Yes.
I don't take exception with that. I think he is, and I think he has rightfully earned his place in time.
Are there any unsolicited comments you'd like to make for the record here? I've sort of pointed the direction for the most part, Senator Harden. Are there any unsolicited comments that you'd like to make for the record here?
No, I can't think of nothing else unless you have some other questions.
All right. I certainly appreciate your time that you granted for me interviewing you at this date. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, and I'm so sorry that I was late, but I went to a retirement for one of the ladies at the Department of Corrections, and that's one of my committee assignments.
Sure.
And so I went to, and it lasted a little longer than I thought because it started at 11.
Okay.
And I was thinking that because it started at 11, it would for sure.
And you all may have gotten started late?
No, we started on time. But it just went long,
I see.
And then the other thing is it was in Madison, so.
review this and see whether or not you want to sign
What
that.
you gonna do with this?
This is for educational purposes, for other researchers and the like who are studying at Jackson State. This is a public. We would like for you to sign in black ink if you decide to sign.
Am I the interviewee?
You are the interviewee.
Right here.
Yes, top line and today's date, please.
Okay. Today is the
28.
6th.
Yes.
28/06. And then I need to put my name right here.
Yes, there. Right.
Now you ain't gonna believe this, but I'm going down to a meeting when I leave here.
Oh, a committee meeting?
Downstairs.
Oh, okay. See, it's hectic day every day. It's accounted for.
It is, but I decided,
every
I
day.
said, I'm going to get up there, I'm going to do this interview.
Yes.
Now, the other thing,